Well, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Building Loved Businesses, the show where we share the stories of entrepreneurs, founders, business owners, and leaders who are building businesses that are truly loved by their employees, their customers, and their communities. I'm your host, Nathan Schock, and today I'm joined by Misty Dais. She is the owner of Quad Cities Music Therapy. And Misty's work sits at that intersection of art, therapy, and entrepreneurship. You see, she uses music not just to teach skills, but to help people develop communication, motor skills, confidence, and meaningful human connection. So, we're going to have a great story today. I know you're going to get a lot out of it. And with that, Misty, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So let's just start for people who might not be familiar with what it is that you do with your business and with music therapy. Just explain what music therapy is. What do you do to get these results for people?
So, in music therapy, what we're doing is using music as a tool to work on non-musical goals. So, as you mentioned, we're working on communication skills, motor skills, executive functioning skills, attention to task, a lot of different things that are not learning the instrument per se, but using it in these different ways. And so, primarily, who we're working with right now is children and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So, those with autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, and different diagnoses such as those, and using music, like I said, as a tool in a therapeutic way. And the really neat thing about it is that it's a research-based therapy that has history that goes very far back, like back to World War II in the United States, and so we're really excited to be able to do that. And we find that that sort of mentality about using music to grow in different ways really blends over into our music instruction as well. And so we're teaching music in other areas so that we can work on, maybe we're doing life skills such as how to work through some challenging situations. So there's a link with our mindset and music therapy within our music lessons as well.
You know, it's funny. This just came to me right as you're going through this. My wife and I went to the movie David this past weekend, and it's the story of David from the Bible, right? And a prominent part, I won't spoil it for people, right? But a prominent part is about David playing the harp for King Saul and saying that was the only thing that would calm him from these kind of erratic behaviors that he was in. And what is it about music that is so effective in these ways that helps us accomplish these non-musical goals?
I think a large part of it, especially with the children, is that it's really, really motivating. If you think about music, it's in our everyday lives. You can't hardly avoid it, right? It's on the radio, it's at the sports games, it's all over the place. And so to be able to be a part of something that is so universal and do it in a way that is accessible to you, and that is motivating, whether it's through drumming, through playing instruments, through singing, there's really a lot of powerful impact. But not only that, if you look neurologically, there's a lot of studies about the music impact on the brain as well, and how it activates all different areas of your brain. And so we can utilize it in that way using neurological principles to really fine tune how we're using music in music therapy.
Cool. Yeah, it is. That makes total sense. Now let's talk, if you would, Misty. Just share. Now we know what you do, but just describe a picture of us for us of the business today. And when I was looking at, I thought that was a professional background, but that's actually your
This is
studio.
actually our music center here. This is our large recital hall. We do a lot of different group programs in here. So we have an adaptive rock band that meets here once a week. We have a lot of early childhood music classes, cardio drumming. There's just so many things going on here all the time. This is our quiet period before, the evening when things really pick up, after school, after work time. So, but yeah, so right now we have our music therapy programs going, and we do those in individual and small group settings. And then we have early childhood programs because we're trying to really utilize that window of extensive learning and growth that happens between birth to 5, 6 years old, and see how we can help music benefit those children as well in those group programs. And then we also have our lessons programs where we do adaptive and more traditional music lessons and music groups as well.
That sounds like a lot to keep
It's
track of. So,
it is. The calendar is pretty extensive. So,
yeah.
and that's what we do here in our music center in Moline, and then we have work throughout the community as well. So, we our music therapists go out to 7 different local schools, and we're working in the special education classrooms there, and assisted living centers in the area, and so we're just trying to use music and get it out as much as we can in our community and make that impact. So.
Yeah. Okay. So now I want to hear about your story about how you got here. So, take us all the way back, starting with the early parts of your career in this in Wisconsin,
Sure.
and just, give us the story. How did you get to Quad Cities Music Therapy as it is today?
It's been quite the journey, quite the journey. I might even go a little bit further back. So,
Great.
when I was a kid, just loved music so much and
Mm,
wanted to find every possible way to get involved. So I was the one that was taking piano lessons and organ lessons and voice lessons and flute and all the different things. Loved it. I was in band and choir and all of it. And when I was in band one year in high school, we had some mentors come out from the area colleges to help us out with our band camp. And one of them just happened to be a music therapy major at Western Illinois University. And I had
mm,
never heard of it before. And so it really piqued my interest because I've always had, a desire to help people and to make a difference in people's lives, but then
mm.
also this drive and love of music. And so when she told me about that, then I had to find out more about it. And that kind of led me down this road into this career path. So I attended Western Illinois University and got my degree in music therapy there. And
Mm.
then I started, to finish off a degree in music therapy, you have to do a 6-month internship. And so my internship was at Music Therapy Services of Waukesha County up in Wisconsin. And it
Okay.
was a private music therapy practice there. And same sort of setup, really, where they had adaptive music lessons, music therapy. They worked in the schools. And so I did a lot of, what we've ended up doing here. Got my roots there and learned a lot about just the private
Mm.
practice and how to make those connections in the community and how to grow things. And the same time I was working there, I was also teaching music lessons at the adjacent music store. So I got really a behind the scenes look at all the different aspects of those two sort of business models, and we've combined them here with Quad Cities Music Therapy.
Yeah. Okay. So you were inside this private practice in Wisconsin,
Yes.
right? And then, if I remember right, this is when marrying into the military kind of came along and changed
Yeah.
direction a bit, right?
I
So catch
changed
us
my
up on
geography for sure.
that.
So I had been in Wisconsin for about 4 years and met my husband, and he was in the Air Force. So that
Yeah.
moved me all the way out to Washington State. So we were living in Tacoma. And while I was there, I connected with United Cerebral Palsy of South Puget Sound and worked with them on trying to get funding to start a music therapy program. And we were actually quite successful there. And then the military moved me again. So we
Yeah.
ended up living overseas in Germany for 7 years, which was an amazing experience.
Mm.
During that time, we grew our family, and so I really focused on that rather than trying to build a practice or anything there. Just
Sure.
with the with the tax laws and things between the German government, U.S. government, and growing our family, it was just the right time to stay home and focus inwards on our family as opposed to outwards on the community aspect. But learned a lot from that too. I'll tell you. We've got 4 children, and
Mhm.
while we were overseas, I was homeschooling them and learning how to teach differently in that
Wow.
regard and different age groups was, I think, has its impact on what we do here as well.
Sure. Great. Okay. So then now follow us all the way through. How did you get from there to the Quad Cities?
Right. From there to the Quad Cities, we took a little 1 year diversion into Little Rock, Arkansas. That was my husband's last duty station in Little
Mhm.
Rock. And he retired from service from there. And then we moved up here because he had a job here lined up afterwards. So we moved to the Quad Cities, I think it was in 2017. Yep.
Yeah. Hmm.
So
And then there was something that happened with your husband's job, right? And now now you're saying, okay, this dream that I've had, maybe it's time to push the go button. So
Right, right. And
walk
it's
us through
something I
that.
had thought about. Sure, sure.
Yeah,
Something I had thought about, as I knew we were getting closer to my husband's retirement, just kind of re-energizing, rejuvenating my sort of professional goals that I had and my thoughts about, how could I get back into music therapy that I loved so much and be able to
yeah,
make an impact in the community that way. So once we had landed here in the Quad Cities, then I knew, okay, this is what I'm going to be doing, but I didn't know when it would start per se.
right.
And
Yep.
then my husband was between jobs, and we thought, well, this is the time to get started. And
Let's
so I
go.
started the business out of a room in our house. I have a music studio set up there, and so I would have private music therapy clients and piano students and oboe students come on out. And that's where we got our start in the back room of our house. So
Yeah, lots of famous businesses have started out of people's homes, right?
yeah,
So,
for sure.
okay, there's lots of people, Misty, right, who love doing a thing, but actually starting a business that does that thing is another step entirely, right? Because now you
Hmm.
have the thing and you have the business. So, walk through your decision making there. What made it so that you're like, yep, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it on my own, and I'm going to be successful.
I think the main driving force for that was that I wanted to manage my own schedule. So if I worked for somebody else, I would be at the whims of, either a like full-time job, have that. But I didn't want to do that because, like I said, we have 4 children and anticipating my husband, working somewhere else. So I wanted to make sure that our children were still provided for in that way. And that I was able to spend the quality time with them and be there for them as needed. So just the flexibility of schedule made it so that I wanted to do it more on my own and be able to make the decisions on my own too, and not have to,
Yeah,
have my creative ideas and then run them by a board or run them by somebody else. So one of the things that I really love now is that, oh, I have an idea. Well, I can just do it. So
uh,
we come up with, sometimes
yeah,
I come up with some goofy things and I'll tell our staff now, oh, I had this idea. And you can see like a slight look of panic in their eyes because they know it's going to be something great, but it's also going to be a challenge. And I love the challenge of it. And the learning curve has been kind of intense, extreme at
yeah,
times. When I know a lot about music, but I didn't know much about business or marketing or any of that. And so there's been that aspect to learn and lean into more. But it's joy in the journey for sure. Without
yeah,
not without challenges, but definitely found a lot of joy in the journey.
yeah. Good. I want to maybe dig into some of those challenges here in a little bit, but
Hmm.
first, right, you started the business, or you launched it in 2018. Uh, and then there was that little event that in 2020, the global pandemic, right? That
Right.
right as you're moving into new commercial space, and yeah, just walk us through, because obviously the stuff that you're describing sounds very in person, right?
Oh, it's
So
very much in person. Yep,
yeah.
for sure.
So
We
how'd you navigate through all of that, Misty?
well, barely. I don't know.
Yeah,
I was
right.
fortunate though that we didn't have the commercial space until later on in 2020. So when
Mhm.
everything just kind of shut down, obviously some families were not able to come for services. We did everything virtually
Yeah.
and transitioned to online as much as possible. And for the students who were not able to do that just because of accessibility needs or what have you, then they just took a break from services until we were able to meet in person again. So we did as much virtually as we could. And, at that time I had a little 2-year old and he would come on in and be part of our lessons too. And, that was really entertaining. And that's when I picked up this microphone. Actually, I had to upgrade some of my
Mhm.
equipment, and we did that online, and
Mhm.
we just made it work. It's one of those things you kind of struggle on through it. But at that time, I was fortunate that I didn't have a lot of financial obligations outside of,
Mhm.
just actually there weren't as many because I wasn't renting space then.
Yeah.
Um, and then come August, September of 2020, I thought certainly we can't be like this that much longer, and took a leap of faith that I wanted to restart the early childhood
Mhm.
programs that I had been doing through the community center in Bettendorf for a while before COVID hit. wanted to get those restarted, and I was looking really just towards the future and what was going to be possible, and started renting out a small commercial space here in Moline, which is a portion actually of the space where we're at currently, so that when things opened up more, when people felt comfortable, we would be able to start doing the group classes here. And I look at that now and I think, oh my goodness, that was pretty bold. That was a bold
Yeah.
move to start doing that. But
Yeah.
I knew that I loved the space and I didn't want to miss out on that opportunity either. So,
Yeah. Okay. So, you've got this vision of what you want it to be, right?
mm-hmm.
And you talked about some of the challenges of not having that background in business, and whether it was staffing or marketing or finance, or what were some of those challenges, and how did you work through them? Who helped you, come through those tough times?
A lot of things when it comes to just learning those new skills that I didn't have. I've spent a lot of time reading, a lot of time listening to podcasts. If I'm
Mm,
driving around somewhere, I've always got a podcast or an audiobook going on, and I'm listening to these things and just
mm,
trying to gain ideas, and refine what I'm doing and make it as clear as possible for people what it is that we do, because I think there can be a lot of misunderstanding, especially when you're in music therapy, about what you do. So just clarifying our message and making sure that people are gaining awareness of what we're doing. And so there's
mm.
been a lot of podcasts for sure, hours and hours.
Yeah. What would
And
you say, Misty? What, whether podcast or book, what's one or two of those that have been the most meaningful for you?
I would say the Donald Miller's books that he
I
has.
wondered. I heard you say clarify the message. I
Yes.
thought got to
There's
be
a lot
Donald.
of, a lot of Donald Miller that I've been listening to,
Yeah.
and Dave Ramsey's Entre Leadership podcast. Stacy Tuschel,
Mm,
she has a well-oiled operations podcast that talks about just the structure and setting up the systems and making sure those things are in place to free you to do the better work that what's going to move the needle more. And
yeah.
so right now I'm reading or listening to the E-Myth Revisited. That's a great one as well.
Yeah.
So I've been, yes, just
Yeah.
taking in a lot of content. And then also there's a number of music business owner podcasts that are out there that talk more specifically about, in the music business, here's some things that apply and different perspectives to have in that regard. For a while, I joined like a coaching program called Building a Music School, and
Mm,
it's run by a guy out of Australia. So that's really interesting, and he has lots
wow.
of resources available. And so just really immersing myself as much as possible has helped tremendously.
Mm, yeah. Good. Okay. Now let's talk about growth, right? Because you've had some pretty significant growth now since you opened that commercial space. Um, and it's kind of by you've done that, it seems, by making the mission bigger, right? And really pulling in partnerships. So
Yep.
walk through, Misty, how you've been able to use partnerships to really grow your business and your impact.
Sure. One of the main partnerships that we have right now is with Gigi's Playhouse. It's a Down Syndrome Achievement Center in Moline. And we've worked with them for the past, I would say, 7 years at least. I started volunteering with them for one of the programs that they have just once a month. And then I would start brainstorming with the director, and here's some different ideas of what we can do. And then always trying to follow it up with, how can I help you find the funds to do this? And so just helping, like, by researching different grant opportunities so that these nonprofit organizations are able to afford our services, so that I'm able to pay our people and to build it out that way. So we've done that with Gigi's Playhouse, and we work with them on a number of different programs.
Mm,
And I just ran some more ideas by them last week. And so they see me
great.
come in, they're like, how much coffee did Misty have today? Oh boy, we're in for it, right? But
Yeah.
and with also the cancer support community at Gilda's Club, and just working with them on some different opportunities and possibilities, and sending any grant opportunities I find their way just to help them out. And
Mm,
you know, yeah, really just trying to work together, because I think we all have that common goal of trying to help others in our community, and whether that's spreading inclusion, spreading awareness about the different organizations, and just the impact that music can have, and trying to get services for as many people as we can, because I know that funding can be a big obstacle for them. So,
Yeah. Those, serving as many as you can, that also takes people. How have you been
mhm.
able to find the right team? Um, what's worked? What struggles have you had as you've built a team around you
Mhm.
in Quad Cities Music Therapy?
That's been the biggest challenge, I think, because what we're doing is really specific. We're
Mm,
not just working on teaching music skills, but we're also, trying to improve their lives in some meaningful, impactful way. And
yeah.
so part of any interview process is always, well, what does music mean to you, and what has it done in your life, and
Right.
why do you want to teach others? Is it just, to get a paycheck, or is it just to teach the
Mm,
technique, or is it for a larger purpose? And so that's one of the things that I'm always looking for is, how has music impacted your life? And I think when a teacher is aware of the influence that music has had on their own lives, then they're able to share that with others more. Um, and then we're hiring music therapists too, and so just finding the
mm,
right fit for the population that we work with, somebody that has experience with those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. It's a challenge, but also I'm going to be patient, and I'm not
mm.
going to hire the wrong person or somebody that is not right for us just because I need to fill that role. So if that means that people are on a wait list a little bit longer, I hope they understand that that's
Yeah.
because I'm being very picky for their own good, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, finding people is always the challenge, but I think with the higher purpose in mind, that it's worth the wait and the patience that it takes. So.
Yeah. And I think one of the key things too, as I work with businesses, and one of the areas is hiring, and a key thing is a purpose doesn't attract everyone, right? It should attract the right person and repel the wrong one.
Mhm.
And so I'm so glad to hear that you're hiring through the lens of your purpose, because that's the best way to do it.
Well, and I think that the families who work with us then know that. And so then they can appreciate that, and they know what they are going to be getting when they come here, right?
Yeah.
It's not just we're training you and we're going to be getting you to Carnegie Hall. Do we have the
Right.
capability to do
Right.
that? Yeah, we have the talented staff to be able to do that. But our goal is going to be to help you learn how to use music in your own life, whether that's for stress relief or for expressing your emotions, or just getting you through some challenging times. So
Yeah. Okay. I want to come back now to Michael Gerber and the E Myth, right?
yeah,
Because one of the key things he talks about is the difference between working in your business and
working on your business.
working on your business. So,
Yep.
Misty, how have you had to evolve as a leader as Quad Cities Music Therapy continues to grow?
That's been one of the hardest things because I love working with people so much. And so to have worked with some of the clients and some of the groups that I've had for so long and then
Mm,
hand them off to somebody else is it's such a leap of faith. I feel like I trust this staff member. I know they're going to do a wonderful job, but then I'm not as hands-on on some of those things. And
mm,
so learning to let go and to delegate is a challenge for me. And then also, I think I need to maintain some ratio of where I'm working with clients and students just to stay grounded in what it is that we're doing, why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so to keep me moving forward on the mission and
yeah,
our pathway that I have in mind and the vision, staying connected, but not doing it so much so that I don't have time to make more connections within the community and to help more people. So
yeah.
it's a I've learned that it's a fine balance, and I'm trying to find that balance point. So far, you could ask much people. I haven't been too successful with that because I love what I'm doing a lot, and all the people we work with are so special to my heart. So
You bet. Well, let's just continue channeling some Michael Gerber here, right? Because
sure,
what he calls the E Myth is the entrepreneurial myth, right? He calls it the entrepreneurial seizure, right?
yeah,
Is people love doing a job, and so they think, well, I can just start a business, right? But running a business and doing a job are two very different things. And often what they want is the job and some flexibility. And now they end up with two jobs, doing the job and running the business.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I was just here talking to another entrepreneur, right, and he was spending about 60 hours a week doing the work. And that was documented because like that's actually time with clients, right? So 60 hours a week, and now having to manage the job, manage the business outside of that. And it's so easy to get into that where you think I'm the only one that can do this. Nobody's going to do it as good as me. I've tried it before; it didn't work, and all of these things. But if you have a vision of a bigger impact, right, of continuing to grow and serve more people, at some point you have to say, okay, well, I'm going to have to trust that I hired good people, empowered them, and can hand things off to them so I can focus on growing the business and building the partnerships and the marketing and all those other things that you talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think one of the keys, right, is that vision. And that's something we talked about last time. It's been very real for you, right? Is the vision of what you're trying to accomplish. So how do you
Absolutely.
do that? How do you use that to keep you moving down this path?
I think over the past year or so, it's become really, really obvious that I was spending too much time in the business and not enough time on it, just because I was, approaching really like a like burnout, but not quite, but really just
Yeah.
yeah, and so then some things didn't were not progressing as they would need to be in order to keep growing. And so we got a little bit stagnant because I was spending so much time working in the business and with the clients and different things like that. And so, I've had to really take a step back and look big picture wise at, okay, what's going on, and
Mhm.
where is my time and skill most needed, and what are the things that I am the only one that can do them. And so focusing on those and setting out some time blocks. This is the time that I'm going to be working on XYZ. This is the time that, where I'm going to be seeing clients, and that's it, and limiting it to that. And our admin assistant is very good at keeping me on track. And I'll say, well, I can
Right.
take that person. And she'll say, no, you cannot. You cannot do any more. I'm not going to let you. So, like,
Yeah.
all right, fine. So having those people that as kind of guardrails has helped as well. And just keeping the big picture in mind.
That's so key, right? Because like I love what you just said, about how you were working as you were working harder in the business actually stagnated.
Hmm.
And so often I find of the entrepreneurs I work with, they 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 know how to do the work, right? They're, this whole business running thing is a little fuzzy and hazy, and I'm not sure I get it, but I know how to do the work,
Hmm.
right? And so when things go not as good as they want, they tend to dive back into the work, and that's exactly the thing that's causing the problem. Um,
Yeah.
so it's great to hear that you have those people that are that are helping you, right, hold you accountable.
Sure.
Um, but now, as you've grown this team, Misty, how has your leadership style changed? How have you had to adapt the way you lead people as the team has gotten bigger?
Well, I think when I started out and there was just, three or four of us, then it's more, hey, we're all in this together, more of a friendship based work environment rather than leadership per se. And
Mm,
so now I'm finding myself having to be more, I don't want to say authority figure, but really being the leader and explaining to people more about, like, these are the processes that we're going to need to go through, and laying out those sort of um, operating procedures, SOPs that we're working on, and trying to develop, like, this is how we're going to do this, as
mm,
opposed to, oh, that sounds great, and kind of more of a laid back approach. So I think
yeah.
being more hands on with the team, and just developing like, this is the process of how we do these things. And,
Hmm.
when you're a small business, it doesn't have to be that way. But now we have, say, 10 people working for us. It has to get more along those lines in just order to stay afloat and to keep things consistent. And so that the families know that they're getting, you know, the same thing from this teacher that they'd be getting from that teacher, and so on and so forth. So,
Yeah. And I know as that team has grown and you described these different services,
mhm.
some of which happen right behind you, but others happen out in the community, right? And now you have some employees that you don't see every day, right?
Right.
So how do you communicate with them? How do you keep that consistency, that standard for people who may not be just right around you all the time?
Yep, and that's something we're working on right now too. We're going to be switching over because I've just been trying to text everybody in separate text threads, and I'll tell you that does not work. It starts, like I said, when you have like 4 people, it's fine, but when you get to the point that we're at now, we're
Yeah.
going to be looking at like implementing more of like a Slack platform
Mhm.
where we can all communicate in one space and stay in touch with each other, and have regular quarterly staff meetings too. So,
Yeah. Good. Okay.
yep,
Well, it'll be fun to see how that evolves.
right.
Let me I just want to shift now a little bit, Misty, to you've done a great job describing the business where it is today, all right? And some of the successes and challenges you've had. But what's your vision for the future? Where do you see Quad Cities Music Therapy 3 or 5 years from now, or even further? Just feel free to dream big.
Dream big. All right, so 3 to 5 years, where I'd like to be, because I was just plotting this out over the weekend. Actually, as we get to the end of the year, you always start to think ahead to the
Yep.
next thing, and I look back at where we've come from and think about where we want to go. And one of the things that was interesting, I before I started the business, I started with this notebook right here, and it says she believed she could, and so she did. And I
Yep.
wrote down all of the ideas that I had for the business back then. So this is like 7, 8 years ago, and where we could be. And I wrote it out by quarter. Here's what we're going to be here, there, and and then it stopped after 5 years. I didn't have any more entries written in there, and I'm like, well, maybe that's why I've been floating around for a couple of years trying to figure it out, because I
Love it.
hadn't revisited that and plotted out, the next 5 years. Because at
Mm,
this point, when I wrote this notebook out, I thought, okay, well, if I could get there, that would be pretty cool. And then didn't revisit it. So that's where we're at right now. And so I have
mm,
started doing that again, plotting out, say, the next 3, 5 years and where I'd like to be. I'd like to have a second location.
mm.
I think that would be really helpful for the community, actually, because you get over in Bettendorf area, there's less there as far as like music centers and things, unless you go into Davenport. So that's in the 3 to 5 year plan. Longer term, I'd love to have a sort of nonprofit offshoot of what we're doing here, that we can be the ones to apply for those grants for services and be able to
Mm.
provide low cost or free services in music therapy and music lessons for those that would find it beneficial. And I also have a lot of interest in the arts as well. So I wonder,
Mm.
just the big vision, is it possible to have an inclusive arts community where perhaps after school times or as a day program for those with disabilities, they could come out and each day participate in a different creative art of some sort? So whether it be music therapy, adaptive music lessons, art lessons, culinary arts, dance and
Mm.
movement, different things like that. I think I think that would be pretty amazing. That's the pie in the sky goal, is to have that sort of nonprofit set up as a sidearm of what we're doing, or something completely separate. I'm not quite sure what that looks like yet, but my 3 to 5 year plan, I think that's pretty much solid as far as working towards that second location.
Yeah. Well, I love that example, right? Because um, I also have a book, right, and it's a quarterly book, my flow planner,
Okay.
and I write down my goals every single day, right? Um, because I constantly want to remind myself of where I'm going. So it was amazing to hear how, right, just writing out the process of writing out your goals and getting clarity. and now being able to drive toward that, that's so cool to hear. And now I'm going to be watching what you accomplish now going forward, now that you're writing them down again.
Yep. Yep. I
Huh.
think that the past few years we've been so caught up in just, like I said, me being too involved in the business, doing it, working
Mm,
with everybody, and then now taking that step back and looking at that 30,000 foot view of where we're at, where we can be, and what's possible, really, if I stay in the right role,
yeah.
and that'll be really pivotal. So,
Okay. Well, we'll be rooting for you. And
thank you.
it's amazing too. We see that all the time, that business has these different plateaus, right? And as you scale one and hit the next one, if you don't change, the business won't continue to grow, right? Because it always requires different things of the leader at different phases. So it'll be cool to watch you do that. Let me
Thank you.
before we wrap up here, Misty. We've been talking a lot about this, but I'd love for you to just share the impact, maybe a story of what you do has done in the life of someone who's come through the program, because that was a pretty cool part of what I learned, and just talk about the difference that it makes in people's lives.
Sure. Well, I mentioned the Gigi's Rock Band that we work with, and we've grown that program now to have 10 participants, which is amazing.
Mm,
Uh, we try to do 2 or 3 performances every year. And I think just the opportunity to get them out in the community and to show what they're capable of and their excitement at having the opportunity to perform when that wouldn't necessarily be an option for them otherwise. Here's this chance to go and rock out in front of other people and have them cheer for you
sure.
and be the rock star. So that's been one really awesome thing. But I think the most impactful story from when we started till now was shortly after COVID, when things were opening back up again. I was at the grocery store and got approached by the grandmother of one of my students, and so we'd come to know each other over the years, and she stopped me in the grocery store, and she wanted to make the point to thank me for teaching her grandson music, because that's what got him through COVID. Because when
Mm,
he was, anxious about it, he could go and play his music, and that was something that it's for her to notice. I think just really moved me, and to make the point to stop me in the
mm,
grocery store and say thank you so much for what you've done, and how helpful that had been to him. So
mm. That's cool. Isn't that what we all want? To grow a business that actually changes people's lives.
right,
Yeah,
right. I
fun.
think there's so much meaning in what we do, and that's one of the driving forces. This is what gets me up in the morning and gets me moving. There's some days I come to work, I'm like, why am I doing this again? Why am I going through all this? But and then I see the people we work with, and the impact that it's had on them, and the smiling faces every day. And this is such a building of joy every night when we come here and get to work with our clients and students. So.
Yeah. Well, that cool, Misty. This has been great learning about you and your story and Quad Cities Music Therapy. Um, if people want to learn more about you or reach out to you, where's the best way to find you?
We put a lot on our Facebook page. I guess I'm of the generation that I'm all on Facebook, and now I got to get more on Instagram too. But if you check us out on Facebook, we're there, or you can check out our webpage at quadcitiesmusictherapy.com.
Great. And because this podcast is listened to all over the country, if they're saying, "Wow, I'd really love to look into that, but I'm in a different community," what's the best way to find music therapy around the country?
So if they go to the webpage for the American Music Therapy Association, they have a list there where you can search for providers in your area. So that would be
Mm,
a great route to go, or look up music therapy in your area and see what pops up, and hopefully they'll be able to connect with someone there. Well,
mm.
can I do one shout out to my daughter? Is that all
Please.
right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Because every time I speak about our business, I always have to thank my daughter, because she's the one that came up with the business name. So
Mhm.
every time, I gotta say thank you to Elsa. You know, you, lives have changed because of your business name that you came up with. So
There we go. Good. Well, thank you to Elsa and Misty. Thank you for sharing your story. It's been really interesting to hear how something you were in, naturally drawn to as a kid, and then followed all the way through college and around across the ocean and back, and to see the impact that you're having now, and then how you're having to change and evolve as a leader to continue to expand the vision has just been a really good lesson, I think, for the people of building loved businesses to have. So thank you for sharing it today.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's been a joy.
Good. And thank you for all you listeners. If you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, follow the show, share it with someone else who's building something that they love and might need to learn some lessons from what Misty talked about today. Just keep helping us spread the story that you can build a loved business and be successful. I'm Nathan Schock. We'll see you next time.